So, it's 2024. Another election rolls around. The air is thick with anticipation, and the streets are alive with the buzz of democracy in action. You'd think it'd feel momentous, right? Especially for first-time voters. The excitement of casting that first ballot, the hope that your voice will make a difference. This election, though, feels different. There's a strange sense of weariness in the air, a feeling that we've been here before. It's less bright future and more déjà vu. The faces on the posters, the slogans, the promises, they all seem recycled, like a movie sequel that didn't quite live up to the original. Haven't we done this already? The same speeches, the same debates, the same old promises that seem to fade away once the votes are counted. The name Biden carries weight, sure. It's a name that's been etched into the annals of American politics for decades. But for young voters, it also carries baggage. It's a name that represents a past they didn't live through but are constantly reminded of. We weren't alive for his Senate days. Those years are just history lessons to us, stories told by our parents and grandparents. We didn't see him as the charming VP, the man who stood beside Obama, the symbol of hope and change. We see the guy who promised change but delivers more of the same. The man who said he would be different but seems to be stuck in the same old political rut. And for a generation facing climate change, economic uncertainty, and a world on fire, literally in some places, more of the same just doesn't cut it. We need bold action. We need leaders who are willing to take risks, to push boundaries, to fight for a future that seems increasingly uncertain. We need a leader, not a caretaker. Someone who can inspire us, who can make us believe that change is not just possible, but inevitable. And honestly, right now, Biden ain't screaming leader to a lot of us. He's a reminder of the past, not a beacon for the future. And in a world that's changing faster than ever, we need someone who can keep up, someone who can lead us into the unknown with confidence and courage. Remember 2008, the audacity of hope? Yeah, that was cool. It felt like America was turning a corner, tackling issues head-on. Biden rode that wave, promising a return to normalcy. After the chaos of the Trump years, normal sounded pretty good. He promised to fix healthcare. He promised to address climate change. He even promised to heal the soul of America. Look, I'm no therapist, but I'm pretty sure that's a tall order for anyone. The problem is, 2 years in, a lot of those promises feel hollow. The soul of America? Still pretty fractured, buddy. Foreign policy might seem boring. It's all like treaties and handshakes and stuff. You know, the kind of things that seem distant and irrelevant to our daily lives. But here's the thing, it impacts real people. Real lives are changed by these decisions made in far-off rooms. And young voters, we're plugged into the world. We're more connected than ever before, and we care about what happens beyond our borders. We see what's happening in Palestine. We see the struggles, the protests, the cries for help. We see the humanitarian crisis, the families torn apart, the children who have lost their homes. We see the endless cycle of violence, the constant state of unrest that seems to have no end in sight. Biden promised a more humane foreign policy. He spoke of compassion, of understanding, of a new approach. He promised to stand up for human rights. But what about Palestine? What about the promises made to protect the vulnerable? What about the continued support for Israel, even when they're, let's say, not exactly following the Geneva Convention? The contradictions are glaring. It's the same old story. Say one thing, do another. The gap between words and actions is wide and disheartening. And for young voters who believe in justice, in equality, in actually walking the walk, it's beyond frustrating. We want leaders who mean what they say, who act with integrity and honor their commitments. We are not just passive observers. We are active participants, rallying for change, using our voices on social media and demanding accountability. From global youth movements to local protests, we are making it clear that we won't stand by and watch. We are the generation that will hold leaders accountable. Together, we are a force for change. We are united in our diversity, and we are hopeful for a better future. The world is watching, and so are we. Look, every president makes mistakes. Every president has their blind spots, but Biden's foreign policy feels like a broken record. It's the same playbook from the Bush era, the Obama era, the Trump era. Well, maybe with less tweeting. We're still embroiled in endless wars. We're still propping up dictators. We're still prioritizing corporate interests over human lives. It's like this whole democracy thing is just a suggestion, not an actual guiding principle. And the Democratic Party? They're complicit too. They talk a big game about progressive values, about human rights, about peace. But when push comes to shove, they fall right in line behind the same old policies. Section 5. The lesser of two evils is still evil. Here's a fun game. Would you rather? Would you rather have someone who actively undermines democracy or someone who just lets it wither on the vine? That's the choice we're facing. Sure, the other guys might be worse. But is slightly less bad really the bar we're setting? Is that the best we can do? Young voters are tired of this false dichotomy. We're tired of choosing between two sides of the same coin. We want real change. We want a leader who isn't afraid to challenge the status quo, even if it ruffles some feathers. Section 6. The rise of the third option. Here's a radical idea. Maybe, just maybe, there's more than two options. Maybe we don't have to choose between the lesser of two evils. Maybe there's a third way. Third-party candidates often get dismissed as unrealistic, as spoilers. But they represent something crucial, the desire for something different. They represent the voices that don't fit neatly into the two-party system. And you know what? Those voices are getting louder. Young voters are more open to third-party candidates than ever before. We're not afraid to shake things up. We're not afraid to demand better. Section 7. Empty words, emptier promises. Politicians love to make promises. It's kind of their thing. But there's a difference between words and actions. And with Biden, that gap is starting to feel like the Grand Canyon. He promised to be the most progressive president since FDR. He promised to unite the country. He promised to restore America's standing in the world. Yet, here we are. The country is more divided than ever. Our allies are questioning our commitment. And those progressive policies? Let's just say they're taking a long, leisurely stroll through the legislative process. Section 8. A crisis of faith, a crisis of choice. This isn't just about Biden. It's about something much deeper, something that has been brewing for years, if not decades. It's about a crisis of faith in our entire political system, a system that many feel has failed them time and time again. It's about the feeling that our voices don't matter, that the system is rigged against us. And honestly, it's hard to shake that feeling when you look at the evidence. It's hard to argue with that feeling when you see the same issues persisting year after year, administration after administration. When we see corporations buying influence, shaping policies to benefit the few at the expense of the many. When we see politicians ignoring the will of the people, making decisions that seem out of touch with the needs and desires of their constituents. When we see the same problems festering for decades, problems like income inequality, healthcare, and climate change, it's easy to become disillusioned. It's easy to feel like your vote doesn't matter, like your voice is just a whisper in a storm. So yeah, maybe some of us won't vote for Biden. Maybe we feel like he's just another part of the problem, not the solution. Maybe we'll choose a third-party candidate, someone who we feel truly represents our values and our vision for the future. Maybe we'll sit this one out, feeling that no candidate truly speaks to our concerns or our hopes. But that doesn't mean we don't care. It doesn't mean we've given up on the idea of democracy or the hope for a better future. It means we're fed up with a system that doesn't seem to care about us. A system that feels broken, unresponsive, and out of touch. And until that changes, it's hard to see how our faith in it can be restored. Section 9. Beyond the ballot box. Apathy or action. Some people will say this is apathy. They'll say we're giving up. They'll say we're lazy, entitled, whatever. But here's the thing. Voting isn't the only way to make your voice heard. We can protest. We can organize. We can hold our elected officials accountable. We can build power outside the traditional political system. Young people are already doing this. We're leading movements for social justice, for climate action, for economic equality. We're not waiting for permission or approval. We're creating the future we want to see. Section 10, 2024. A turning point for young America? 2024 is a crossroads, a pivotal moment. It's a chance to either double down on the status quo or to demand something different, something better. It's a chance for young people to make our voices heard, loud and clear, to shape the future of this country, our country. We're not going to be silent, not anymore. We're not going to be ignored. We're the future, the next generation, and we're not afraid to fight for it. So buckle up, America. Things are about to get very interesting.